Welcome to Law Made Simple, your companion for decoding everyday legal issues. Today, we're diving into one of India's most common and emotionally charged legal battles: landlord-tenant disputes. Whether you're renting out a property or living in one, disagreements over rent, repairs, deposits, or eviction can quickly escalate into legal nightmares. These disputes don't just affect your wallet, they impact your peace of mind, your safety, and your rights. In India, over 30% of urban households live in rented accommodations, yet most tenants and landlords remain unaware of the laws that govern them. The Transfer of Property Act, 1882 provides the national framework, but each state has its own Rent Control Act. For example, Maharashtra Rent Control Act, 1999, Delhi Rent Control Act, 1958, Tamil Nadu Buildings, Lease and Rent Control Act, 1960, and Karnataka Rent Act, 1999 all have unique provisions. These laws regulate everything from how much rent can be charged, to how eviction must be handled, to who pays for repairs. But here's the problem: ignorance of the law leads to costly mistakes. In Chennai, a tenant was evicted without written notice. He took the matter to court and won, because the landlord violated Section 106 of the Transfer of Property Act. In Mumbai, a landlord demanded double rent without updating the agreement. The tenant refused, and the case dragged on for months. In Bengaluru, a tenant withheld rent due to a leaking ceiling. The landlord ignored it, and the tribunal ruled in favor of the tenant. These are not rare cases, they're everyday realities. So whether you're a landlord trying to protect your investment, or a tenant trying to protect your home, knowing your rights is non-negotiable. In this video, we'll walk you through the key laws, real-life scenarios, and preventive tips to help you stay informed and empowered. And if you find this helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Law Made Simple, your legal companion in everyday life. Rent disputes are the most frequent, and often the most misunderstood. Section 105 of the Transfer of Property Act defines rent as part of a lease contract. But without a written agreement, everything becomes hearsay. In Maharashtra, the Rent Control Act, 1999 prohibits arbitrary rent hikes unless agreed upon or justified by property improvements. A tenant in Mumbai was evicted after refusing a verbal rent hike. He had no written lease, and the court sided with the landlord. In contrast, under the Model Tenancy Act, 2021, rent tribunals can intervene if rent hikes are unfair. Karnataka's Rent Act also mandates that rent increases follow a formula, not whims. Delhi's Rent Control Act requires landlords to justify rent revisions based on property upgrades or market conditions. Tamil Nadu's Rent Control Act allows tenants to challenge excessive hikes before the rent controller. Always insist on a written agreement, and document every change. Rent isn't just a payment, it's a legal commitment. If you're a landlord, clarity protects you. If you're a tenant, documentation is your shield. Law Made Simple recommends reviewing your rent agreement annually and updating it with mutual consent. That way, you avoid surprises and courtrooms. Let's talk about repairs, a frequent flashpoint in rental relationships. Section 108 of the Transfer of Property Act, 1882 clearly states that landlords are responsible for structural repairs, while tenants handle daily upkeep. But when the lease is vague or silent, confusion reigns. In Bengaluru, a tenant withheld rent because of a leaking ceiling. The landlord ignored repeated requests, and the Karnataka Rent Tribunal ruled in favor of the tenant. Tamil Nadu's Rent Control Act mandates landlords to maintain basic amenities like plumbing, electricals, and roofing. In Delhi, tenants can file complaints with the rent controller if repairs are neglected. Maharashtra's Rent Control Act allows tenants to deduct repair costs from rent, but only with proper documentation. Always photograph the issue, send written requests, and keep a timeline. If the landlord fails to act, you can approach the rent tribunal. But tenants must also fulfill their part: cleaning, minor fixes, and not causing damage. Repairs aren't favors, they're legal obligations. A well-drafted lease should spell out who handles what. Law Made Simple recommends adding a repair clause with timelines and escalation steps. That way, you avoid blame games and protect your rights. Security deposits often become security threats. Section 11 of the Model Tenancy Act, 2021 caps deposits at 2 months' rent for residential properties. But in cities like Bengaluru, landlords still demand 6 to 10 months upfront. That's why state laws matter. Karnataka doesn't yet cap deposits, but reforms are underway. In Chennai, a tenant was charged 25,000 Indian rupees for faded paint, normal wear and tear. The Tamil Nadu Rent Tribunal ruled the deduction illegal and ordered a full refund. Maharashtra's Rent Control Act requires landlords to return deposits within 30 days of vacating, unless damage is proven. Delhi's Rent Control Act allows tenants to challenge unfair deductions. Always insist on a move-in and move-out inspection report. Take photos, list existing damages, and get signatures. If deductions are unfair, you can file a complaint with the Rent Tribunal. Deposits are not donations. They're refundable unless damage is proven. Law Made Simple recommends using a standard checklist for inspections and keeping communication in writing. That way, you avoid last-minute surprises and protect your money. Eviction is serious and must follow due process. Section 106 of the Transfer of Property Act, 1882 mandates a 15-day notice for monthly leases. In Delhi, the Rent Control Act, 1958 requires landlords to obtain court permission before eviction. A landlord in Delhi locked out a tenant without notice. The tenant filed a criminal complaint and won damages. In Maharashtra, eviction without written notice is illegal. Tamil Nadu's Rent Control Act allows eviction only for specific reasons: non-payment, subletting, or property misuse. Karnataka's Rent Act requires landlords to serve proper notice and file through the Rent Tribunal. Locking someone out, cutting utilities, or threatening eviction is not just unethical, it's unlawful. Tenants also have responsibilities. If they violate lease terms, landlords can initiate legal eviction, but only through proper channels. Law Made Simple recommends including a clear eviction clause in your lease, with notice periods and dispute resolution steps. Whether you're evicting or resisting eviction, follow the law, not your temper. Let's decode the legal backbone. The Transfer of Property Act, 1882 lays the foundation. Sections 105 to 108 cover rent, repairs, deposits, and eviction. The Model Tenancy Act, 2021 modernizes these rules, introducing rent tribunals, deposit caps, and written lease mandates. Each state has its own Rent Control Act. Maharashtra's 1999 Act protects tenants from arbitrary hikes. Delhi's 1958 Act requires court approval for eviction. Tamil Nadu's 1960 Act mandates basic amenities and repair timelines. Karnataka's 1999 Act governs rent revisions and eviction procedures. In a landmark Chennai case, the court upheld a tenant's right to repairs despite the landlord's refusal. The judge cited Section 108 of the Transfer of Property Act and Tamil Nadu's rent control provisions. Law Made Simple recommends reading your state's Rent Control Act and aligning your lease accordingly. Knowing your sections isn't just smart, it's strategic. Legal awareness is your first line of defense. So who's right, landlord or tenant? It depends on the facts. In Bengaluru, a tenant withheld rent over ignored repairs. The tribunal sided with him. In Mumbai, a tenant overstayed after lease expiry and was fined 50,000 Indian rupees. In Chennai, a landlord deducted 20,000 Indian rupees for faded curtains. The tribunal ordered a full refund. In Delhi, a tenant was evicted without notice and won damages. In Pune, a landlord raised rent mid-lease without consent. The tribunal reversed it. Every case is unique, but the law is consistent. Documentation, communication, and compliance decide the winner. If you're a landlord, maintain records and follow procedure. If you're a tenant, document issues and respond legally. Law Made Simple helps you see both sides, because justice isn't about emotion, it's about evidence. Stay informed, stay fair, and stay protected. Landlord-tenant disputes don't have to end in court. Prevention is powerful. Always sign a written lease. Verbal agreements are risky. Document repairs, inspections, and deposit conditions with photos and written records. Follow legal notice periods for eviction or rent changes. Use rent tribunals for quick, affordable resolution. Know your state's Rent Control Act. Laws vary, and ignorance can cost you. Whether you're renting or leasing, knowledge is your best ally. Law Made Simple is here to guide you through every legal twist and turn. We simplify the law so you can act with confidence. Like, share, and subscribe for more plain language legal explainers. Until next time, stay smart, stay safe, and stay lawful.